All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. I apologize for the errors that not the errors, that for the issues I was having with Google Hangout. I guess I'm just not smart enough to figure out how to use Keynote and Google Hangout at the same time. So, anyways, I didn't want to spend an hour or two trying to figure that out. I just wanted to get this information to you. So, again, apologize for that. What I'm going to do actually is allow you to ask questions um, via the members area that I have set up for you. So again, this whole thing is recorded. Obviously you're watching this. You're going to have access to this. You can download it. So let me just jump right in. I want to kind of start out talking about where we are today, kind of where we started, and get you caught up to speed, and then we'll get started on this thing. I don't want this thing to run 2 hours. So my dad started this business back in 1999. There was no Google. It was Yahoo, Alta Vista, like Dogpile. It was there was no SEO. If you wanted to get ranked, you pretty much paid Yahoo or Alta Vista $300, and that landed you on the first page usually most of the time. So when he tells me the stories about the way it was back then in the quote unquote Wild West, I laugh every single time because it's changed so much in the last 15 years that it's just unreal. Uh, but what hasn't changed for us is the way that we attract traffic. And honestly, this is really it's not number one on this presentation. It's actually number 50 because I want to finish it with that too. But I'm going to start with it as well right now. The number one way to get free search engine traffic to land on the first page is to write content that people love and that people want to share. That is hands down the number one way to get ranked on the first page of Google. There's no trickery, there's no backlinks, there's no spam, there's no link wheels, link pyramids, link hexagons, link whatever. There is none of that crap, and we don't do any of that stuff today. We don't do black hat, gray hat. Everything we do is completely white hat. There's no tricks. There's no backlink schemes. We're not buying backlinks from completely irrelevant sites. Everything that we do is thought of as a real business. Think of this. You got to treat it like a real business. If you want to make real money, you have to have the mindset that you're running a real business, and that's the way that we do it every single day. So let's just jump in here real quick and get started. What I want to start with this section is really about setting up your site the right way, and this honestly is about 50 to 60% of your success. If you get this part right, and you really only have to do this part one time, the setup. If you get it right, you're already halfway. You're already halfway there to getting the rankings that you want. And for a lot of people, if you just like a lot of people that already have existing sites with a couple, maybe 50 pages, 100 pages, or even 20 pages. If you do just a few of these things, tweak a few of your settings, and maybe install a plugin or two that you don't have installed, and change the structure of your page. And if you doing it the way that I'm showing you is easy because you don't have to do it on every single page. So if you do that, you may see an instant boost in rankings just because you're making your content more visible and more easily searched crawled by the search engines. So the structure is extremely important, which is why I started with it. You want to start with the right structure. And obviously WordPress is the way to go with that today. They just make it so easy to set up, to use. We honestly, we don't even train our employees. It's really a self-taught thing. You really can watch a few videos on YouTube, and you'd be on your way to writing your first post and posting it live. They don't have to be a developer or an HTML expert to write something in WordPress and to use it. once it's set up, just kind of give them the keys and run with it. We've got a girl in the office that writes a lot of content for us on a daily basis, and she uses WordPress every day. It's just like using a word processor. So, I mean, millions and millions of websites are using WordPress. Excuse me. It's really one of the best things online today for publishing content. And for a lot of reasons, it keeps your site structured the right way. The structure and organization is extremely important in the eyes of the search engines. They want to be able to crawl your site easily and kind of come up with a visual layout of your site, even though that search engines aren't real visual. They like to be able to have organization and see organization, and WordPress does that for them with categories and tags, and really post and page structure alone will allow them to reach any page on your site within just a few levels. So the other thing with WordPress is obviously the amount of plugins available. There's just a vast, vast amount of plugins that are available for free, most of them. In WordPress's plugin repository, it's 20 and 30,000 plugins now. Really anything that you can think of, any kind of functionality you want to add to your site, you really can do that with WordPress. And it comes ready to use with SEO in mind. It was created that way. It was created to allow the search engines to easily find content in kind of front end and back end. The back end, a lot of people don't think about the back end of it, but that really plays a lot into the way that the search engines find content. If they've got to crawl through thousands and thousands of characters of code before they actually hit the content on your site, that's not good. You want to have your content as close to the top as possible, and in most cases, WordPress does that. There are some themes out there that are, well, I'll get into that in a few slides, but for the most part, WordPress out of the box is SEO ready. There's a lot of things you can do to screw that up, and I'm going to tell you about those in a minute. But last thing is really having the ability to have your readers comment is huge, and I'll talk more about that too. But keeping your content active, meaning that it's fresh, it gets updated constantly. People are adding new content to your pages for you. Commenting allows you to do that, and out of the box, commenting is available by default. There's no plugin needed for commenting. And this last part, you want to write this down, because this today in 2014 is one of the most important ranking factors in the search engine algorithm. Mostly I'm talking about Google when I talk about search engines. Engagement. On-page, on-site engagement is huge today. Whether it's people sharing, clicking the like button, scrolling, doing anything, any click of the mouse, anything moving on your page, commenting, liking something, sharing something, anything like that is considered engagement to Google, and they want to see engagement because in today's internet world, there's a lot of things that engage users on a website. They don't want to just hit a static site and be like a dictionary or an encyclopedia, and just it's got to be engaging, whether they're commenting or doing all the things that I said. Just keep in mind that engagement is a huge ranking factor, and it doesn't have to be liking and sharing and commenting. It can be something as little as scrolling the mouse. Even if somebody lands on your page, scrolls the mouse a half of an inch, meaning the screen moves a half of an inch, that's considered engagement. That is going to be 50 times better than somebody hitting your site and in 3 seconds just hitting the back button. In the mind of the search engines, the back button tells Google that whatever content they displayed to them wasn't good enough. It didn't meet their needs, because especially if they were only on your site for 2 or 3 minutes. So just remember that engagement is huge. And if you're starting out with a new site, stay away from the free web hosting. The search engines don't typically like free web hosts. mainly because it shows that the owner of the site isn't serious about running their site properly and running a business. Because it, with a free web host, the people that running the site could be there today and gone tomorrow, and Google doesn't want to rank somebody that where that could happen. They want to see somebody that's dedicated to what they're doing. All right, so the next thing, after you've got WordPress going, you want to use the right theme. And a lot of this stuff initially here in the first couple slides, the first 5 or 6 slides, this is basic stuff to some of you, but you may kind of be overlooking it. You may have just found some random theme out there that some guy was giving away for free, hasn't been supported or updated in 2 years, and that honestly could be hurting you. Um, there's a lot of themes out there that are just poorly coded. They're not secure. And a lot of these things, Google and the search engines, they look at this, and a lot of people overlook this. You want to choose a theme that is secure, meaning that it's secure for you, your content, your site, your hosting, but also secure for the users. If they have to enter some information on your site for some reason, or if you're taking payments, that's got to be secure, and Google wants to see that. And you also want somebody that's going to keep your theme up to date, because you know, there's been some recent attacks online lately with SSL and stuff like that. You want to make sure that your theme creator is going to be there to be on top of those updates. So you want to pick a theme that's a few things: optimized for search engines, includes some options for SEO, and mostly important is it loads quickly. My number one recommendation is the Genesis framework by Studio Press. It's what we've been using now for the past, I don't know, 2 years, which has probably been, a good part of where I have learned a lot of, about the back end, like the code of the site. And I think, yeah, I'm going to show you an example here. So this is our site, one of them. This is the code, the behind the scenes stuff of the site. And let me see. Here, the body is actually where the content starts. This is where we start to display like the navigation and stuff up here. So this is really the first part of the site. So everything from here up is all code that has to load before anything is even displayed to the screen. And you want to pay close attention on your site to what is getting loaded before any content's being displayed. There's themes out there, and I'm just going to say that because I think it's important, especially in the marketing world. A theme like Optimize Press it could be detrimental to your search engine rankings. And as much as I hate to say that publicly or semi-publicly, it honestly could be. There's so much code that is just running, and a lot of it you actually wouldn't even see here. If you were to open up the Optimize Press the Optimize Press theme, like the PHP files, if you were to open those things up and look at what gets run on your server side, meaning that like PHP runs on the server before it even hits the screen. If you were to look at that, you would probably like fall over at how much code runs automatically. It's really checking all of the options inside of your Optimize Press theme. It's checking to see, did they include this? Did they include this? Did they include this? If they included this, do this. If they did that, do this too. There's so many things that has to check for on every single page load, and that is just a tremendous load on your server, on your bandwidth, on your user, on the visitor side. They've got to download all that stuff so that their internet speed comes into play. So page loading is one of the number one things that I recommend, and it's kind of the easiest thing to fix. And Genesis does a great job. And actually I don't think I included it in here, but we use Synthesis hosting for WordPress, It's also a Studio Press site or property or owned by the same guys. We paid $97 a month, but we've got 10, I don't know, actually 6 or 7 websites there. $97 a month. And Synthesis is only WordPress. Everything they do, it's all optimized for WordPress. And it's really been the best host that I have ever had in my entire existence in the marketing world. And I highly, highly recommend them. But they out of the box, their stuff is just like really, really fast. Just they optimize all of their servers for WordPress, meaning something doesn't have to get called, it won't get called. And they just do a great job. So page loading and SEO, make sure those things that you in your theme you've got those options. And I'll cover some more of those here in a little bit. So a few of the plugins that I use these for on every single WordPress site, and to me this is part of why we rank so well. Akismet comes installed by default. I think it actually is a paid thing now. I don't know how much it is, honestly. It's not much, but it's worth it. We've had it on our site for 4 years, and it's blocked over 700,000 spam comments. It blocks spam comments. I didn't think I said what it does. But that's actually something that can really, really harm your site if it's not used properly. Meaning that if you don't have a spam commenting plugin or a way to block that on your site, and people are spamming the heck out of your site, Google will not rank your site. It's an obvious, almost close to like a malware type thing that could be triggered in the Google algorithm if they land on your site and see just some random comments that have nothing to do with what they thought your site was. So the other thing that is important nowadays is the Google Plus like author linking, meaning that it shows your little picture next to your search results for your Google Plus profile. I know in Genesis and maybe I know in Genesis they give you don't need you don't need a plugin. In Genesis, you just go into your user profile, and when you have the Genesis theme installed, there's another field in your user profile where you can add your Google Plus profile link. So that's important. We use W3 Total Cache. That's actually installed by default with Synthesis hosting, and they give you a file that you can download. For like the perfect settings for that. Just upload it right in there, and you're done. WordPress SEO is another one that we have used. We don't really need it as much anymore because Genesis has really done good in making those same options available, like below the post. There's a lot of stuff you can do below the post, below each post now to do like a custom title, custom meta description, and that kind of stuff. So I have a section here later we'll go into about plugins. So number 4, I called it bow to the almighty Google, and that's really what we've done, not kind of on purpose originally, but we do now because it works so well for us. And why wouldn't you do it? I mean, a lot of this stuff is so easy to do. It's not like they're asking you to jump through tons of hoops. Really, you got to follow their policies for sites, and they really want to just protect their users. You got to have the terms and conditions, privacy policy. They like to see the contact us, about us page, and a return policy, like if you're selling stuff. Those are really the main things. And they don't have to be like written by a lawyer. I mean, obviously, I would suggest having your lawyer oversee that stuff, but it's not hard, people. The next few things are important, and I will talk about webmaster tools a little bit later. But definitely want to get that set up, and you want to go to the webmaster blog. They give you like so much content, so much good stuff that better than the stuff that you're going to be able to pay for on the internet as far as SEO goes. They just tell you what they're looking for, what you're looking for. So definitely do that stuff. Get Google Analytics set up. If you don't have that set up, you have to have that set up. or some kind of analytics. We use Google. It's free and it's what I've always used. I'm comfortable with it. So those are the basics of what you need with Google Analytics, Webmaster stuff, and the policies. That's really the basics of what you need to do, kind of just to make Google happy on a site-wide basis. So, like I said before, page load, page speed, and is one of the biggest things that that Google looks for nowadays, especially because people are accessing the web from different devices, via Wi-Fi, and people are just incredibly impatient. So if your site doesn't load quickly enough, Google will not rank you high. You've got to have a quick site. And the best way to do this, Google gives you the tool right there. I got the link right there for you. It's called Page Speed Tools. And you can just go to Google and type in page speed tools if you can't like write that link down or take a picture of it or something. Uh, and you just put your URL in there. You can do an individual page. You can do your whole site. They'll give you a bunch of different things you can work on for your site if you have things to work on. They'll tell you if your pages are loading too slow in their mind. They'll tell you why. Tell you exactly what to fix. It's a pretty cool tool. And really in their mind, if your pages are loading slowly, just to them it's a bad user experience. People get mad, they hit the back button, they want to find something else. So and like I mentioned before, like with the Optimize Press thing, the bulky WordPress themes, which to me is like Optimize Press. And honestly, I haven't looked. We use Optimize Press 2.0. I haven't looked at that recently, like on the back end, like the code of it, to see if it's still the same as the first one. But the first one was just horrible. Hopefully they kind of fixed that, but again, I haven't looked at it. So, and there's some plugins. Really, honestly, even if you have good plugins, if you have a lot of plugins, that could slow your load speed down of each page. Because a lot of times each plugin will have its own like CSS style sheet that needs to get loaded just for that plugin. So if you have 20 plugins installed, they got to call 20 different style sheets every time the page is loading. So that's a lot of load on your site. And caching plugins will definitely help with your load speed. We use, like I said, W3 Total Cache for that. Kind of going along with page load speed, like I mentioned, a lot of people are searching via mobile devices, so you got to be optimized for mobile. I read something recently where this year, 2014, there will be more mobile searches than desktop searches in many markets across the internet, which is huge. I think on our site, and we have an older demographic even on our site, we're approaching 40% of our traffic on mobile devices, which is just I don't know, crazy to me in that demographic. We're typically 55 to 75-year-old, both male and female. Typically a mobile optimized site will rank higher than a non-optimized mobile optimized site, given that the content is the same or better. Meaning, if you had the exact same content on two different sites, one was optimized for mobile, one isn't, they're gonna show the one that's optimized for mobile. That's kind of what I want to get my point across there. And responsive design is preferred, as opposed to having a completely separate mobile site, for a number of different reasons. First, you kind of lose your link juice, meaning that if you've got a separate mobile site that gets called, and you've got links pointing to your main site, like your regular site for desktop, you're like redirecting somebody to a mobile optimized site, excuse me, you're going to be losing your link juice, meaning that you're not going to be having the same authority because Google has to crawl two different pages at that point. And it's just, I mean, if you're starting from scratch, it's easy nowadays to just grab a responsive theme, like we use Genesis as responsive. The WordPress 2014 and I think 2013 themes are both responsive. It's just so easy to make that happen now. I mean, I understand that if you've got an existing site, it's not as easy, but there's options out there for you. And I put the tester down there that I use by StudioPress. Kind of shows you what your site looks like on the most popular mobile device sizes. So that's just studiopress.com/responsive. All right, so that's kind of that's it for the structure of your site. Again, I've got a section on WordPress theme or excuse me, WordPress plugins that I'll talk about eventually, and those aren't all required. That's why I didn't include all that up front. Those are kind of things that you can choose individually to use on your site if you think it's appropriate or if it, if it works for you. All right, so we're going to talk about now how to kind of optimize like the individual pages of your site. And this, I don't want you to be confused. You don't have to optimize. Say you've got 50 to 100 pages already. You don't need to go back to each site necessarily. I'm sorry, each page necessarily to optimize each one. Kind of the same as the structure thing, but because there's ways that you can make this change across the site in some cases, but you may still have to go back and adjust it. So keyword placement is still one of the highest ranking factors, and Google isn't really going to tell you that, but there's only really 2 to 3 ways that they can tell what a page is about, and that's the content on the page and the links pointing to that content. And the only way they can see what the content is about on the page is by looking in the areas on the page that they feel are the most important. And they want to see those keywords like in the title tags and in the H1 tags. They want to see it in your URL, like the page slash, the post permalink. It's kind of the slug of your WordPress page, your post. If you're familiar with WordPress, you can change that. So you want to make sure you're using the post content permalink option, and in WordPress, in the recent WordPress updates, they've changed it now to where that is the default setting, to where it's not showing like the page number or the page ID as the permalink. So you want to also show the keyword in like the first sentence or two of your content. The stuff higher up in your content, Google gives more weight to that content. So if you've got like a link up in the top of your page, that's going to get more weight from Google than a link, say, in like the bottom paragraph. That's just the way it is. They also like to see the keywords in the subheads, meaning like in the H2, H3 tags. And you can have those. We usually use those in every single page. Kind of gives it the feel of a sales page, but we use it in every single page, kind of to break it up, make it easier for the user to read, but also to sneak our keyword in there as much as possible. And you want to keep the amount of keywords in your post to 1%, really. I don't. To me, if you go more than 1%, it just sounds spammy. Some people are saying 2%, but think about that. 2%, that's 20 times in a 1,000-word post, and that is a little too much. And you also want to put it in the file name of your images as much as possible, but still be descriptive of the image. Don't just name it the same thing and add a number to it. You could do that, but to me that's even crossing the line. So, and definitely use the alt tags. I read something recently that was pretty good, and it said for your alt tags, when you're writing alt tags, imagine that you're explaining the picture to somebody who is blind. That's how you should be writing your alt tags. And I thought that was pretty cool. So definitely use the alt tags. Put your keyword in there too. This one here, I put the ranking booster next to it, which I've done on a few of them that I think are most important, is the time on the page. Time on the page is extremely, extremely, extremely important today, 2014, uh, for ranking highly in the search engines. Um, they want Google can only tell so much from an algorithm. They can only tell so much from code and numbers. And one of the things that they use a lot in their algorithm is one of the biggest metrics. It's a key indicator is the time on the page. It's for them to really, to them, if they see somebody stay on a page for a long time, they think that that content was relevant and useful. If it wasn't, the person wouldn't have stayed there so long. So to me, I think that that's, well, not to me. I know that it's one of the things that they use to rank content the highest. Um, if you keep people on your page, you have the ability to possibly reduce the bounce rate, meaning a bounce rate is how many people, the percentage of people that leave your site after visiting only one page. So if somebody hits your page from a search result and they quickly click the back button, they just bounced. They didn't go to another page on your site. So you get the option of reducing your bounce rate. And a few ways to increase the time on your page is to just put as much content on there as you possibly can, and in different types of content. Meaning YouTube videos or Vimeo videos. You can throw in some infographics that you can find infographics all over the place and just link back to the wherever you found them. Just do a Google search for infographic on something and change it to the image results so it's only showing images. Pull one of those on your site and then put a link back to the site so you can say you know where the source of it came from. You can embed, I mean, nowadays you can embed anything that you want. There's actually a site called Embedly where you can literally embed anything online into your site legally, which is pretty dang cool. I mean, you can embed an entire website if you wanted to. So another thing is SlideShare, like an ebook or a presentation. If you can find one that's relevant to your page, I mean, you could have somebody on your site for 30 minutes reading a dang ebook, which is just awesome. So time on page is hugely, hugely important. Number 9 is increased scrolling, and this goes back to the engagement thing that I talked about a while back. It's another key indicator, and it really should have been, well, it really is a ranking booster, but it, scrolling, to me, the number one thing it does is engagement. And engagement is like the number 2 metric next to time on site that Google is looking at nowadays. So there's a few ways that I put here to encourage scrolling. It's kind of a trick that I learned somewhere, picked it up along the way, is somebody lands on your site, they haven't scrolled yet. That's what they're seeing is considered above the fold. So what we do, like in our posts, we'll put like and it really depends on your theme, but we'll put like an image to where it's like just barely peeking up above the fold, meaning it's just above the bottom of their screen. So it kind of grabs their attention and they want to see what that image is. So they scroll, obviously. And once they start scrolling, it's kind of like a slippery slope. They keep scrolling, keep scrolling. And you want to use your copy or your body text to draw them in. The headline can do that, obviously, but you want to have the first sentence draw them in, and then the picture add on to the first sentence. And make sure your pictures are adding value to the content. You don't just slap in a stock image. And avoid, this is something that I actually learned from like a design blog on how to increase scrolling, is to avoid horizontal breaks near the fold, meaning don't put like a bar below the fold that makes the person think that they're at the bottom of the page. And this is really more of a subconscious thing, is when somebody sees that bar right there, even though it may just be a design thing, like you might think it looks good, to them, subconsciously or psychologically, they may think that it's like the end of the page and they just got to leave. So uh, there's a tool that I put there called foldtester.com that shows you where the fold is on your site for most users, and it shows a few different screen sizes. So make sure you get that lined out and do whatever you can on every page to just increase scrolling, which is just a huge engagement metric nowadays. Number 10, use unique images. This one is kind of obvious. It, they want Google wants relevant content. They don't want duplicate content that doesn't add value. Um, Stock images, obviously, to me, they don't add value. All it is like a huge placeholder wasting valuable space. You want your images to help demonstrate the content. You want it to be a visual like reenactment of what you're telling them. Some people are visual learners, and reading just isn't enough for them sometimes to comprehend what you're telling them. And captions are a great place to put your keyword, but it's also where you really need to describe what's going on in a picture and add to the text on the page. Another thing about using unique images is you can rank in search results if you optimize them the right way, meaning that you've got the keywords in the file name and in the alt tags. Google will show images actually on their main search result page as well. Uh, and just a side note, like screenshots that you take from your computer typically appear to be unique to Google. Uh, and there's a way that you can tell if your images are unique. Just go to images.google.com and you can either upload an image or put a URL to an image in there, hit search, and they'll tell you if that image is found on any other site and where it was found first. So that's pretty cool. Number 11 is split testing your post and page titles. This is a pretty cool trick that I think a lot of people don't know. Google tracks like the click-through rates of your search results, meaning that if they're displaying your site on the home page, or I'm sorry, on the search results page, they're tracking how many times people click your site compared to other people. And if somebody else below you is getting a higher click-through rate than you better believe they're going to boost them above you. It just makes more sense. They want to show better results higher. And with WordPress, this is easy to do with a plugin called Title Split Testing for WordPress. And I put the link there for that. You can put in different page or post titles that you want to test, and it'll kind of like a split test. It'll show each title the same amount of times and then track how many clicks each one gets. So that's definitely an easy way to boost your click-through rate and in turn boost your ranking in the search results. And I'm testing this stuff all the time because I'm kind of a geek that way. I like doing that kind of crap, but it's not as easy to do on a non-WordPress site. You know, there's some tools I put there to use for that, like analytics experiments, Optimizely, Visual Website Optimizer, Lead Pages Unbounce. Those things make it easier, but every single one of those is paid except for Google Analytics. So WordPress makes it easy. That plugin is free. Number 12 is keeping your ads below the fold. This just goes back to a better user experience in the mind of Google. If they land on your site and you got ads plastered all over the place that are all above the fold, your bounce rate is just going to go through the roof, and people just aren't going to scroll just to see more ads. And to me, like the news sites, man, those things drive me freaking crazy. I cannot stand going to those sites and just spend more time like closing ads than you do reading things. It's just annoying. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way. You want the reader to see exactly what they expected to see as soon as they land on your page. Like your headline needs to be the same or similar to what your link in the search results was. You don't want them to land on a page and just see some random thing about like Axe body spray or something like they do on the dang news sites. I just wish those guys would understand they can make a lot more money off of other things than showing display ads for a quarter of a nickel or something. But over here to the right, you can see I took a full page snapshot of our blog, and I want you to see where the red box is, because that's really where the ad is on our site. That's the only ad that we currently have on our blog. It's at the end of the post before the comments. So they search our site, they find they search for something, they find our site, they land there, and the headline of the article is like the top thing, the biggest thing they see initially. And you can see right there, we've got an image right where I told you, probably right kind of halfway above the fold type of thing, where they have to scroll to see the image. And on that one, it's a cat. I think that's how to keep cats out of the garden or something. Um, but you can see where our ad is. So the next one here is Interlinking Posts, and this is another huge ranking booster. And it really is more so that it increases. It's a ranking booster because it increases the time on your overall site, not time on page, but increases the time on your overall site. And what this means is you want to link to words that are in new posts to older posts, older like relevant posts. So like maybe even stuff you want to rank for. So you can see in the picture to the right, we've got a post about hardwood and softwood cuttings, and we within like the third right at the third word, we linked straight out to a page that we had already done about doing hardwood cuttings in the dead of winter. That right there is interlinking, meaning that this is a new post, but we linked out to an older post, and it's relevant to the text that we had already written on that page. This reduces bounce rate, obviously, because they're no longer hitting the back button. They're diving deeper into our site, which is hugely important. If you can get them to dive deeper in your site, your overall site rankings are going to boost. And interlinking sooner in the post rather than later is more important. Like I said before, Google gives more weight to stuff at the top of the page. And if you're going to keep them on your site, make sure that you don't open it in a new tab or a new window unless it's going to like a different domain. I haven't been able to prove that this helps rankings at all, but it's a better user experience, meaning that if they're on the same page, they can find their way back to where they were. I'm sorry, if they're on the same site, they can find their way back to where they were. And like I mentioned, it really just increases the overall time on the site. And one thing too that I want to say is that there's plugins available to help with this, like SEO Smart Links, meaning you can set up a keyword. You go in and type in a keyword, and anytime that keyword gets pulled up and is displayed on your page, they'll link to wherever you tell them to. But typically I don't like this because I like to have control over what I'm interlinking. I like to do longer tailed things than just 2 or 3 words, because the 2 or 3 word thing to me almost looks like the contextual advertising, and a lot of people are afraid to click on those links. So I like to make my own that are more compelling. Number 14 is add a related posts section. And I'm sure you've seen them, and you may have overlooked them or dismissed them as being newsy or too salesy even, or maybe even just something that junks up your site. But they honestly do improve rankings because it increases your time on your site. People find more content that they're interested in. They click through, reduces your bounce rate right there. If they click through, they're diving deeper in your site, and it's worked for us. So, and again, the clicks, when people click on your site, it's considered engagement. As long as they're not clicking the back button, that's engagement. And there's tons and tons of plugins available for this. And one of them that I recommend is YARP. Excuse me. And You just type Yart plugin in, and it'll show up in probably the top result. Uh, but you can adjust it to find the most relevant post. That's one of the biggest things that I've noticed is that they make it really hard to they make the related post plugins I'm talking about are are difficult to adjust to find the most relevant. What they do is they find another post in the same category, but to me that's not relevant enough. And the Yart plugin has allowed us to do that to find the ones that are kind of more relevant than anything else. Okay, number 15 is the number of words on the page. Um, and there's really no strict number here. I mean, a lot of people say, it needs to be X, between X and X. And honestly, we've had pages ranked that have 0 words on them. I, and I'm not joking with that. I put up a video on a page, and all I did was name it correctly, name the video correctly, and name the page correctly. Had the keyword in the title, and then I linked back to that page from one of our older posts that was, a relevant anchor text backlink. And a month or two later, it was on the first page for that phrase, and so it's not something that is required. But when you're in a competition with other, big name companies, or even smaller guys that just are putting out good content, you have to really look at what's already ranking and what kind of value they're providing. Uh, and that's honestly one of the easiest ways to get on the first page if you don't know where to start. Even if you go through this whole video and come out on the end and still like, man, I don't know where to start. That's where I would start. I'd type in my number one desired keyword phrase in Google. I'd go through all 10 of the top results on the first page, and I would just make notes of what is in each spot, how many words are on the page, what kind of value are they providing, what aren't they providing, and then just create something that is better than every single one of them, and then do a little research on those 10, see who's linking to those places, to those pages, and maybe even contact the people that are linking to them and say, hey, I just want to let you know I created this new piece of content, and I saw that you shared this other piece, and kind of, mine's a lot better, not in those words, but you know what I mean. So number of words really isn't like a strict ranking metric, but the more the better, honestly. And we tend to get at a minimum 800 words on our pages. And overall, like when you go into the webmaster tools, you can see where you rank overall, like on your site. And right now, our site ranks like overall position, I guess is what I was trying to say. Our site ranks like 6.5, meaning that on average, the pages on our site rank for some keyword at 6.5 in the number 6 position. And we typically go no less than 800 on like a content piece. We do have a post every now and then where we just slap a video up there because we want to send our list to the video, but not to YouTube. We want to be able to keep them on our site. So, um, probably the last thing here, what I put there is that Google really just wants to display the most useful and most relevant content. Doesn't, like I said, doesn't necessarily have to be the most words. It just has to provide the user or the reader with the most value and give them the answer they were looking for. Next is grammar and spelling. And a lot of people argue about this, and some think that it doesn't matter. Some think that it kind of makes you look more real if you're spelling things wrong and not using correct grammar. But if you go watch the video, the link that I put in there is from 2011. Matt's pretty much said that spelling and grammar isn't a metric that they use in ranking. But when they analyze sites, with a higher page rank, the ones that typically rank higher on the first page, they found that they had better spelling and grammar than sites with lower page rank. So he didn't really say one way or another, but you can make your own decision from that. Um, and I mean, there's a lot of tools online that you can use to check this. Obviously, WordPress, will give you spelling errors and stuff like that. But there's a site called White Smoke that you can use to check grammar, punctuation, and sentence structure. It's pretty cool too. All right, the next one, I think everybody knows that social media is huge, and it has become one of the biggest ranking metrics now recently within the last year or two. Um, and it really makes a lot of sense. If people are willing to share that piece of content with their social media followers or fans or friends or family, in Google's mind, it's good enough to be on the first page. So, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Google Plus, those are the major ones. Of course, there's a few more. Lately, Google Plus has been one of the biggest ones. Obviously, if Google owns it, they want you using their stuff. And I've noticed myself that people ranking on the first page just from their own Google Plus profile. You can just go in there, write a post, and people are ranking just based on the keyword in that post on their Google Plus profile. But I have noticed that it's usually people that have a decent number of followers. I haven't seen anybody rank on the first page for a good keyword phrase that didn't have less than 2,000 followers. So take that however you want. But another thing I noticed too, and I think I read it somewhere that you can do anchor text backlinks from inside of your Google Plus posts, and it's pretty much passing high authority because it's a Google domain. And again, you can take that however you want. I mean, it may work today, not tomorrow, type of thing. So um, I have a whole section here later on backlinking too, so I'll save a little bit for that. Um, to finish up the social media thing, there's tons and tons and tons of plugins that do this, and I've got a few that I recommend, and I'll show you those later on. But make sure the biggest thing that I found that has caused problems on our sites are plugins that are slow loading, meaning that your page loads, the content and everything loads, but wherever you have a social media bar or a place where plugin or buttons are on your page, they'll typically take longer to load. You'll see like the script calling, like Facebook's API or Twitter's API, taking a long time to respond. I mean, obviously, because there's just millions of sites trying to access the same thing at one time. But there are plugins out there that use caching and other types of performance metrics that help loading and help like your on-page SEO. And I'll show you a few of those later on. But just make sure that you pay attention to that, because that can really slow down the loading of your site. And the other thing is just make it easy for people to share. If you want them to share your content, like your page or whatever, put the buttons where you think they're going to click on them. Don't put them at the top of the page, at just the top of the page before they've even had a chance to read the content or see what it's all about. I mean, put them at the top and at the bottom in case they um, if they come back to it or whatever. But we have it at the top and the bottom. Some people have this, the side for the floating sidebar. Um, that's fine. Just make sure. The other thing is to check to make sure how it looks on mobile devices, because I noticed that the floating side thing doesn't typically work on the mobile devices. So, all right, this one here is pretty important, and a lot of people don't think to do this. We talked about interlinking new posts. Like if you're writing a new post, you go back through there and link to older posts, obviously. This one is the opposite. You want to take some time. say every time you get a piece of content written and you post it, think about what that content is, what keywords you want to rank for on that content, and then go over to Google and type right where to have there in blue. You're going to do like the site colon yourdomainname.com. So my domain, like our domain, is mikesbackyardnursery.com, and then in parentheses put in, or I'm sorry, in quotes, put in your keyword phrase. And then what that's going to do is it's going to search just your site and try and find that exact keyword phrase on any of your pages. And if you find any of them, go back into those pages or posts and hyperlink that exact keyword phrase and link to your new posts. There's a lot of different benefits to this. Some of these posts could be ranking already, meaning that they're getting traffic, so you could be sending more traffic to your new post. The other thing, obviously, is kind of just backlink juice. You're giving older, aged content with more authority. You're pushing that backlink juice through to the new site, or I'm sorry, the new post. So that's a pretty big one too. Something that we never really did, but we started doing here in the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, and have noticed a boost in traffic just because of that. Because all of the factors I've already talked about come into play: time on page, time on site, backlinking. All this stuff comes into play here. So that's really it for kind of the specific page specific stuff. This section here is kind of like, well, I'll just go into each slide. This one here is a top 10 list. I'm going to kind of show you a few of the different types of posts that we do that typically get good results, good rankings. They get shared a lot. They're easy to create. Like this one here is a top 10 list. So everybody's seen these, like the top 10. We did here, top 20 gardening blogs. There's a ton of different ways to do this, and this works in any niche, really, anything. I've seen it done in all kinds of random niches. So, and you don't even have to do this yourself. That top 20 gardening blogs post, I paid somebody probably 25 or 30 bucks to create that. It was between 1,000 and 1,200 words, and I used textbroker.com. I believe it's .com. Textbroker. It's a way that you can get connected with freelance writers, and you just go in there and you set like they have different qualities scores, kinda. You could pick like a level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and then the price goes up per word on each one of those, and you can write. Really, you just post your job, the exact thing you want written, how many words you want written, how you want it written, the keyword phrase, how many times you want the keyword in there, and people will just grab it. And like, I don't know how it works on the writer's end. All I know is that once I post it, somebody grabs it within a few hours and they start writing it, and you can give them the time frame that you want it back in, and typically it's done before that, in a day or two normally, and you've got your finished product, and it's usually 25 or 30 bucks. So that's how I did that one, and those are the easiest ones to get written because you're not really relying on somebody's knowledge to write the content, so it doesn't really have to make a whole lot of sense. All I had to do is find the top 20 gardening blogs, however they think is the best way to figure out what are the top 20, either Alexa ranking or something like that. That's really up to them. They just go to each site, write I don't know how many words for each one, a little description of each one, and then put the link in there so that I can go like grab a screenshot from it and put it up there. But that specific keyword phrase, gardening blogs itself, is getting 1,000 searches a month according to Word Tracker, and we are still on the first page for that one. And one of the reasons, like on that one, like on these top 20 posts, top 10 lists like this, on this one specifically, I went to each person that we included in that blog, each one of the gardening blogs, and just wrote them a quick email wrote everybody the same email, just swapped out the name. I said, hey, just want to let you know that you were selected as one of our top 20 gardening blogs for 2013. And you can go check out the page here. Feel free to share it with your subscribers, fans, whatever you got, basically. So a few of them linked back to that page. A lot of them shared it on Facebook, and we got a surge of traffic from that quickly, and then it still kept us on the first page at with 1,000 searches a month potentially. This one we don't do this enough, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to implement this year with our team in the office, is just really picking one topic and writing a complete guide on that topic so that it's like a start to finish, everything you need to know to get X done, whatever that is. And there's a lot of things in our niche we can do that for. There's a lot of things in everyone's niche you can do that for. And one of the things I've recently noticed, and I kind of hesitate to share this kind of stuff because I don't want to say something and point someone in the wrong direction, but I've noticed that anytime that you search for a how-to type search in Google, or a kind of a how to do something demonstration type search, Google is ranking the site wikihow.com normally within the first 2 to 3 results, sometimes the first result. And I'm still studying this and trying to figure out the best way to mimic what they're doing, and trying to figure out, I guess, why Google is ranking them, because I mean, obviously it's a high authority domain and they're giving people exactly what they want, but it's all they are really step-by-step tutorials. So, and that's really what this is, a complete guide is. It's just a start to finish, step 1 through step 20 or whatever it is. And you really end up racking up the number of words, and you're not even really thinking about it because you're really just doing a step-by-step. It's not an article. For me, it's hard to just knock out 2,000 words in an article just by sitting down and writing it. But doing a step-by-step is much easier. Like I said, they tend to get shared more, uh, get more backlinks just because they're getting shared. People are on the page for 20, 30 minutes just trying to figure out how to do everything, go through all the steps. Um, you can include video on there, so this is definitely something that we will be doing more of in the near future. And then this one too is kind of just what I just talked about, and it really is one of the most popular types of first page content right now. It's easier for people to follow, get shared, and gets more backlinks. So it's really exactly what I talked about before. Let me go backwards a little bit. The complete guide thing, like the ultimate complete guide, is more so a all-inclusive. That doesn't have to be step by step. And a perfect example of this is Neil Patel, and his blog is quicksprout.com. Quicksprout.com. You've probably heard of him as a digital marketing guy. He puts out these complete guides to X, like I don't know how many times. He's got a ton of them. Just go to his blog, quicksprout.com/blog, I think, and down at the bottom on the sidebar on the right side, you'll see a whole list of them. He does a great job of these complete guides. One tip that I would say here, number 22 in our post titles, is using numbers, because it instantly gives the reader or the user an idea of what they're getting into before they even click on it from Google. So they're not going there to read a book. They're going there to get the 7 unique blank to get blank. Like it is almost a promise or a guarantee of what they're going to get for reading. It's not just a come here and read this boring post. So one way to do this is to figure out, start with one of these and then use the post or page split test plugin to figure out what is working the best, like which types of titles work the best, which numbers work the best, which promises in the title works the best. So you really have to think of your page titles and your post titles as kind of a headline, like a headline in an ad that you're writing. Almost think of it like you're doing Google AdWords and you've only got X number of characters. I mean, Google AdWords, you only got 25 characters, but for like the title tags, like that Google pulls for their search results, you want to keep it from between 70 and less. So you've got 70 characters, not letters, 70 characters, spaces and everything included, to come up with a good headline. Because when people are scrolling down that first page, you want to get higher click-throughs, meaning you want more people to click through on your ad than anyone else. I'm sorry, on your search result than anyone else. If Google finds out that somebody below you is getting more click-throughs than you can bet that they're going to rank them higher than you eventually. So you want to think of it as a headline in the ad, your page and post titles. The description of your page and post matters as well. Like, it goes along with the titles. Um, you want to create custom descriptions, and think of this as like the ad copy in your title, in your search result, and you think of your title as a headline. The job of the description is to really sell the click, meaning you want to sell the reader or the user on clicking your search result to go to your page. Like in the Genesis theme that we use, they provide meta boxes below the WordPress post editor where you type the content, and you can just go in there and create a custom title, custom keywords, and custom description, and it'll swap that out with whatever you use, and instead, like whatever you name your page or post at the top normally, it'll swap that out with your custom one. Um, and if you're not using Genesis, use that WordPress SEO plugin that I mentioned at the very beginning that does the same exact thing. And they give you a few more options in that plugin as well. The other thing in really in both the title and in the description is to include your keyword. And if people are searching for that keyword, Google makes those keywords bold. So let me show you an example of that, just so we kind of get a better idea. So this is really right now. Let's see, it is June 14th. This black mulch keyword right now is our number one traffic source organically. We're getting the most traffic from this keyword right now, and we are ranking. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 for that. So you can see they bolded mulch because I've got mulch up here that's one of the keywords I typed in, and you can see down here they bolded it again. So you want to kind of throw that, and they bolded it actually in the permalink too. You want to throw in your keywords wherever you can. I mean, obviously you don't want to just put a bunch of them in there because that just looks spammy. But it catches the reader's eye. Look at this one. Look how eye-catching that one is. That's exactly what I typed in. And even the first one, that's probably why this one ranks so high. It's the first thing they have here, and it's included up there too. So, but this one, I mean, this one kind of blew me away when I was going through all these here recently, and I noticed that we were ranking above Walmart, above Scott's, above Ace Hardware, and then I think Tractor Supply is on even the next page. Amazon, Kmart, yeah, Tractor Supply. So it's kind of crazy. All these people are selling black mulch, but we're just giving people information on black mulch, which mulch is best. So I just wanted to show you how the keywords show up. You've probably noticed it. You may have knew that already, but never really paid attention to it. They do that for a reason because they want their users. Google wants their users to be able to find exactly what they're looking for as quickly as they can. All right, let's see what we got here. Yep, okay. So if you don't have any kind of description, like a custom or a specific description for that page or post, Google's just going to pull whatever they think is relevant. Sometimes it's the first sentence or two. Like in our case, they'd rather pull a sentence or two that includes the keyword, so that you can get so they can show the reader exactly why they pulled that, what's relevant to them. So all right, so we're gonna get into the plugin section here in a second. Excuse me. All right, these are the plugins, and again, some of these I've used, some of these I haven't used, and the reason I included the ones I haven't used is because I know people who are using them. And this game changes so quickly, the WordPress game, the plugins and all that. So before you just go in and install these things, I would suggest just typing it into Google and finding it inside of the WordPress repository and making sure that the plugin is still up to date, like the developers are still updating it. If you pull up the plugin page, let me do that just so you can. I want to be able to explain what I'm talking about. So I just typed it in, clicked it in Google. This is the WordPress repository. You can see that we're in the plugins section, plugin directory. Down here on the right, you'll be able to see when it was last updated. And this was April, almost 2 months ago. And that's fine. And it'll typically tell you what it's compatible with. Right now, that is the current version of WordPress. So to me, that would be perfectly fine to still use that. You don't want to. What WordPress automatically does by default is that once this date drops below 2 years, they'll throw open a box up here that says warning, this plugin hasn't been updated in 2 years. Doesn't and then in a few they say something else, but that's really what I would do, just to make sure that I'm not installing a plugin that hasn't been updated in a while and could be vulnerable to security threats. So this RB internal links allows you to link to other pages or posts using a shortcode, but really what it does is allows you to change your link structure later. It really doesn't link to a URL like you normally would, like you would type in the URL of your post. It links to the post or page ID number, and that ID number never changes unless your page or post gets deleted. So what that means is you can go in and change the name of your post. You can change the permalink of it, and use with these shortcodes and using the internal link plugin, you're not going to lose old links that you've created just because you typed in the URL manually. And even if you change your URL structure, meaning if you went from having a date in the URL to not having a date, your links are still going to work, and they're not going to throw up like a 404 error because it linked to the page ID. So that's a pretty cool plugin. And 404 errors hurt your SEO efforts quite a bit because Google, in their mind, they think that you're no longer updating your site, you're not providing a good user experience. Somebody lands on that page, they don't find what they're looking for. So you definitely don't want to have 404s. The Google XML sitemap really is kind of a roadmap for search engines. It just makes it easier for them to crawl the site and see the structure and kind of get an idea of how the site's laid out. And this plugin specifically notifies search engines anytime you put up a new post. So some people don't like using the sitemap. You can submit a sitemap inside of your webmaster tools too. You don't have to have this plugin, but that's just one that we use, so I threw that in there. Akismet, we talked about that already. Protects your blog from spam and getting flagged by search engines. And it's no longer free, and I honestly don't know what the price is. I thought it was like $5 a month or 50 some bucks a year maybe, but it's worth it because like I said before, we've gotten, I think on our blog in 4 years, it's blocked almost 800,000 spam comments. So it does a good job of getting of filtering most of them, meaning that it catches most of them and just throws them right into the spam section. You never see them. Every now and then one will slip through that somebody probably did manually, and that's usually what the case is. Somebody tried to manually do a spam comment, and we'll have to just delete that one. I don't think we've ever had our blog set to automatically approve comments for that reason. So, broken link checker kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the 404 pages. It goes through your whole site and just makes sure that you don't have any links that are broken, meaning that you in older posts you link to pages or posts that are no longer in existence, like ones you deleted, or even if somebody commented with a link to another site, it checks for those too to make sure that those links aren't missing. And this is really a big SEO flag for search engines, is broken links. And there's a lot of tools online. You can just go in and put your website in there, and it'll tell you the same thing, but it's not going to be as thorough as this plugin. Obviously, the plugin is like installed on your site, so it can constantly check for you and just throw up a message when you've got something that's not looking right. So it also prevents search engines from following broken links, meaning like if it notified you of a broken link and you hadn't gotten around to changing it for a week, that plugin's gonna insert a no follow tag in that hyperlink, meaning that it's going to tell the search engines to just skip right over that link and not even look at it, so that it doesn't affect your on-page SEO. And you can actually with this plugin you can actually edit all of these links and fix them all right from the same screen, so you don't have to go into each individual post where it throws up the error. So that's pretty cool. This is one of the social plugins for WordPress, the social media plugins that I've seen other people use, and I know other people that are using it. It's really a little advanced, meaning that it's not like doesn't just add buttons to your site. Now, honestly, I don't even know that it does add buttons to your site. It more so formats your content to to make it the easiest for search engines to read, and to make it the easiest for people to share. So by adding that Facebook open graph and the Twitter card and Google rich snippets, that's making your content not really easier to share, but easier for people to see exactly what your content is when someone else shares it. Like typically when you share a page on Facebook just goes in and pulls whatever they think they should pull, like as far as the content, the image, the description. With this Facebook open graph, you can really tell Facebook what to pull, what image to pull, if there is no images, how to format the shared post, how wide to make the picture and all that. So there's a lot of options in this plugin. Also, it adds Google authorship, which we've talked about a couple of times. It supports rich snippets, meaning that it formats your content based on the type of content it is. If you're reviewing something, it'll add those little stars next to your search result in the search engine based on what your review is. And there's a few different other rich snippets, like the products. If it's a business, it'll add different things like hours and location and phone number, people, recipe, software, videos, events. There's a lot of different rich snippets that people don't even really know about. And kind of the open graph content's a little different, but you can see there's just a ton of different things with this plugin. You just have to go look to see everything. If you've got a local business or you're doing like SEO for local businesses, this is a pretty cool plugin that just automatically creates a contact page with just like a few clicks of the mouse. It adds the name, address, hours, phone number, all that stuff, and it does it in the way that search engines want to see it today, meaning it wraps everything that it's supposed to in rich snippets, so that if somebody types in something, that it's going to display it the way that Google wants to display it. This SEO rank report plugin, I use this for about a year, and it's pretty cool. You can. It's the part that I didn't like about it, which is why I'm not using it right now, is you have to go in and manually include what you want to track. So if I get a post written, I have to go in there and put the keyword in there, and then I have to go in and put our page URL in there for the page I want to track. And you can even track other people's stuff in there too, which kind of gets confusing. But it'll track this for you, and every 3 days it'll update and pull in the new data, and you can tell where you're ranking at for that specific keyword on that, for that page. And you can go. It's pretty cool because it kind of tracks it, and now I can go back a year later and look at where it started and see where it is now, and just you can tell what has boosted it over time. You can also get email notifications. If your rankings go up or down, it's up to you to choose what you want as far as the number of days or spots or whatever. This WordPress social sharing optimization, kind of it's similar to the other plugin before, but you can do a lot of the same stuff. But I put them both in there just so that you can pick between the two, because some people want certain aspects of one, some people want certain aspects of other. Like this one is one that has the caching, meaning that you're not waiting for the APIs of all the social media sites to load before the page is finished. It just pulls it in one time a day or something like that, and then updates the number of shares or whatever throughout the day. We talked about related posts. This plugin is WordPress related posts. It's really a really basic plugin, but to me, it's one of the easiest, and that's why I put it. If you're not going to do anything, like the YARP one that I recommended is pretty advanced, and a lot of times that scares people away from even doing it, so they'll never do it, which is why I included this one. Just get something up there. Something is better than nothing. Some people will click on some of those, some won't. Obviously, the more relevant they are, the more people are going to click on them. And it's tough to get really relevant with this plugin, but you'll at least get something. So use this one if anything, and then work on the YARP one. But this one still gives you enough information, shows statistics about the page views, and then shows you how many people clicked on it. And it's mobile responsive too, which is important. This one's similar, WordPress popular posts. This is something usually you'd put in like your sidebar, kind of as like a sticky area, meaning that the posts don't change. You just still go in there and select however many number of posts you want that you think are some of your most popular posts. And it will change if one of your like newer post becomes more popular than another one. You can do it based on a few different things. I think comments and honestly, I don't remember now which one, how it ranks them. But to me, comments is usually the how they determine if it's popular or not. Some of them you can actually rank popularity based on the number of visits to the page, which is pretty cool. And this one actually allows you to put thumbnails in there, like images of the post, where a lot of them don't let you do that. Breadcrumbs is actually something that we haven't talked about yet, and it's really important. It's really important for SEO. Google actually pulls breadcrumbs as like a rich snippet almost, and it's just to them it's organization. It goes back to what I talked to at the beginning of this thing. They want to be able to organize the world's content and display it relevantly and quickly to their users. So breadcrumbs allow them to do that because it allows the user to get back, or really to get anywhere on your site within a matter of a few clicks. And it allows them to crawl and organize the content better. So, and typically sites that use breadcrumbs usually end up going higher in the rankings, just based on from what they've said. It just makes sense. The Google wants to rank things that they think are are just better user experience. So it also gives you another chance to add like keyword-rich anchor text in every page, because typically your breadcrumbs are your categories, and your categories should be like honed into a specific keyword. So it's really like another form of interlinking on your site. And this plugin is Breadcrumb Nav XT. And honestly, when I was looking for a breadcrumb plugin, I couldn't find one that and I would love it if somebody would point me in the direction of one that you can do everything from the front end, like not really the front end, but from the admin screen of WordPress, meaning that I could just say insert breadcrumbs before content, or insert breadcrumbs before and after content, meaning that it puts it like below the page title, but before the content starts, where typically breadcrumbs are, or even above the page title. Which it's to me seems like it would be fairly easy to do using WordPress hooks, but I could not find a plugin that allowed you to do that. Every single breadcrumb plugin you have to copy a piece of PHP code and paste it into one of your template files, which just kind of defeats the purpose of a plugin. I mean, if I wanted to do that, I would just hard code a piece of code in there and make the breadcrumbs myself. So number 35 is the WordPress to Twitter plugin. This automatically posts to Twitter when you create a new blog post. This is something that some people do, not a lot of people do, but it depends on your social media following. If people like your content, then this is a way to just eliminate a task for you. You don't have to go to Twitter and post it. That may not be a big deal to you, but it's another step. It's something else that would psychologically say, hey, I don't really feel like writing today, because after I write, I have to go post this here, go post it there. So it kind of it makes it a little bit easier for you. Allows you to get some instant traffic to your site, and it'll improve your overall social signals fairly quickly if you get people to that site and they share it, or if they just retweet it or whatever. So this plugin makes that easier. On a similar note, this is the Facebook side of that. It's auto-published for Facebook, meaning you can automatically shoot your post out to your Facebook page or your profile when you create a new blog post, and the same exact things work for that. So this is MashShare. If you've ever, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the site Mashable. Uh, this plugin adds social media buttons and sharing buttons to your site that mimic the design of Mashables, which a lot of people seem to like. That flat design, kind of a modern looking design, and they include the caching for these, so that they load quick. They're real quick. This plugin, I haven't tried it personally, but I know a lot of people use it, so I'm sure that it's good. And another thing that people don't really think about with the social media buttons, even if it's just a like button, not even a share button, that click is still considered engagement to Google and search engines. Just getting somebody to click on your site shows Google that people are engaged in it enough to, or like it enough to engage in it. So uh, it's not going to hurt anything to include social media buttons on your site just for that reason alone. All right, so this section is um, mostly about backlinking. And if you've known me for any length of time, or even if you just read the sales page for this product, uh, you know going in that we don't do spammy crap. We don't do we don't go out and buy a bunch of crappy links and point them to our site. The stuff that I'm about to cover in here are things that we have done, or things that we should have done. Things that I have planned on doing but maybe didn't do. But most of these things we have done. Some of them I just put in there because I think they're cool tricks that I came across that I just hadn't had time to try yet, but I'm sure would work very well. So first one is forums. A lot of people like immediately dismiss forums because I don't know if it just seems too labor intensive to them. Maybe it is. I guess it depends on how much you value a link back to your site. Uh, but forums are usually like a high authority site, and you can find any. You can almost find a forum on any niche, uh, meaning that it's a super relevant link back to your site and from a high authority site. So the way to do this is to kind of go in, find a forum and go in there and kind of add value first, meaning don't just sign up for a new profile and and like your first post in the forum do a link back to your site. I mean, that's just obvious that you're looking for a way to just get something out of the site. I mean, go in there and add value, create, uh, answer questions for people, um, and then eventually, after you get so many posts under your belt, go in there and create a good thread about a very specific topic, and like the way that I like to do it is not to link back to my home, like my home page, like the main domain. I like to link back to individual posts or pages on my site, because you want to start getting backlinks to all of these other pages, because really all if you link back to just your main domain, it's a lot harder to boost your overall authority by just doing that. It doesn't look natural either. A lot of people don't realize that natural links come in to individual pages and posts more than they do the home page, because most of the content is on all the other pages. The home page doesn't have all of the content. So go into the forum, create a good post, or I'm sorry, good thread in there, and then you just do like an anchor text backlink to a relevant post or page on your site, uh, and that's a good backlink. Just before you go to all this trouble, though, make sure that the forum isn't like redirecting links or not following links, because it as much as you want to provide value, you don't want to waste your time. So the way that I do that too with like I use Firefox, and there's a plugin for Firefox called I don't, let me just see what it is. Yeah, no do follow. So that if you just go in there and in the Firefox and install that plugin, the plugin's free. And if you right click and click no do follow, it's going to show you links that are not follow or no follow links in red and do follow in blue. And then you can quickly tell. And if you just hover over a link in a form and look at the bottom corner of your screen, you'll be able to tell if the links are being redirected. If they're being redirected, you're not going to get any kind of link juice from that. All right, number 39 is aggregators. Um, and this is really, really easy. And I did this on my own personal site, I don't know, last year. And this, along with like one or two other things I'm going to mention here in a second, boosted my page rank, my Google page rank, from a 0 to a 2, which is like insane. And I'm not going to give you the time frame because I don't want it to sound like unachievable. And actually recently, I don't know where it was, somebody at like a conference, and Matt Cutts was at like some kind of webmaster conference recently, and said that somebody asked him, when is the page rank algorithm going to be updated, because they haven't updated in a long time, and he said that it's not on their list of things to do or something. So I don't know if PageRank's going to be around for much longer, or if they're just going to do away with it because people are kind of abusing it. They're using that as um, kind of a way to measure their backlink methods. And but for now, it is what it is. Aggregators are sites like Technorati, Alltop, Blogorama. What you do is just go in there, sign up for a free account, fill out your description of your site, what type of site it is, and you link to your domain, and they will give you a link. They'll hyperlink the name of your site, whatever you put in for your business name or name of the site. hyperlinked to your main domain, which is really considered a branded domain, meaning that it's like not a keyword rich domain or backlink. It's a branded backlink, like the name of your site. And a lot of people overlook that. You don't, when you're backlinking, like in all these other sites and blogs and stuff, don't always use keywords because that anymore that kind of triggers a flag up for Google that like, hey, these people are just trying to get links back to their site and keyword rich links. But you want to make, you want to think the way that Google thinks, and you want to make it look natural. People don't just link using a keyword. How many people that you know of go out to like a blog and share something like, hey, I found this over here at this site, and then hyperlink the keyword? I mean, that rarely happens. What they normally do is say, hey, I found this article on so and so's site, and they link to the so and so part because that's the name of the site. That's really what a branded backlink is, and um, you want to spread out like the type of backlinks you're doing. So don't do all keyword rich backlinks. Do some branded backlinks, some naked backlinks. A naked backlink is really just the URL, so that like the HTTP colon slash slash yourdomain.com. That's a naked backlink. But these aggregators are, what they do is they pull in all of your posts. So you're really giving them like your RSS feed, and anytime you make a post, they throw it up on a page that's specific to your topic or your niche for their users to read. And this really helps to get some traffic too. Like Technorati and Alltop, those are some high traffic search or sites. And if you're getting traffic from those things, it could you could do pretty well with that. One of the other things too, like I only put three there, but if you go to Google and just search for blog aggregators, the first few results are like lists of blog aggregators. Just make sure that you're looking at like the page rank of the site so that you're not wasting your time when trying to get a backlink from a one or a two. Not that's bad, but there's a lot of good ones out there that are 4 or 5, 6. Technorati is like a 7 or an 8. So, and make sure that the links are do follow links. Infographics. A lot of people are trying to do these, but they're not thinking about the backlink opportunity here. Uh, a lot of people, what they're trying to do is actually go out and find them and just put them on their site. But if you were to go create them and then, go out and tell a bunch of different people about your infographic, just say, hey, I just want to let you know I made this infographic. I think your audience would really like it. And those people can just embed it in their site. And if you use a site like visual.ly, if you upload your infographic there and just give people the code to that, you're going to get a backlink. Uh, well, first of all, they'll backlink to Visually, but you'll have your own backlink on there too. So, um, you can just really hire anybody to create an infographic. Just search for people to do infographic work for you. There's a few different places where you can submit your infographic to there. Number 41 is business listings. This was the other thing that I did along with the blog aggregators that boosted my page rank. And this is something that really nobody does. I don't know if they just don't realize that you get a do follow backlink from a high page rank site or not, but it's really the same as the aggregators. Just go on these sites, fill in your profile as complete as you can, and it's really simple. It's just like the address, name of the business, what niche you're in, and that kind of stuff, um, and put in the link to your site. Mana is a good one. Crunchbase, Active Rain, Startup Nation, and there's more of them. Just go on the Google again and type in business listings with do follow backlink, and I'm sure there's a few internet marketing guys that have put lists together for you that you can do. Just make sure that you're not being spammy, meaning that you're not creating a profile and then just throwing in a bunch of like keyword rich stuff to try and get ranked for other things. Number 42 is to get relevant Fiverr backlinks. This was something that I came across recently that I saw someone else doing that I wanted to do and I just haven't implemented yet, but I thought it was pretty cool. A lot of people on Fiverr are selling, not necessarily selling backlinks, but they're selling you the opportunity to guest post on their blog, meaning that you can give them a unique article and they'll allow you to include one keyword or two keywords even back to your domain, whatever domain you want. And so you can go in and create a good like anchor text backlink, meaning you can go in and hyperlink a keyword string in that article that you want to backlink to, or you can just include like your branded domain, branded URL, or like a branded backlink back to your site, either saying, um, the guy just put your name in there and say like author of this blog or whatever. So to find these people, just go into Fiverr and do and search for like guest post on my, or I will post your article slash content, and you'll come up with a whole list of people that are willing to do it. And just make sure that you're finding a blog that's relevant to your site, because there's a lot of different ones on there, like travel blogs and social media blogs and fashion and like food, like recipe blogs. And just look at the reviews of these people. Look at the reviews on Fiverr and make sure that people got what they were hoping to get and that it's not like a spammy site. I mean, that's one of the downsides that I saw from it, is that nobody lists their site. They just tell you the niche they're in, and a lot of times they'll tell you the page rank of the site. And also look at the extra, like the gig extras below that gig, because a lot of them will even create the post for you or include a link on their homepage or their blog roll, so you can get even more out of it. Audio sharing sites are something that very few people take advantage of because they just assume that it's more for music. But I mean, you could share an interview training, like the audio stripped from a video that you did, like on YouTube, and just kind of do the same thing as you would on YouTube. Think of one specific thing and include an audio of that, upload it to these sites, and then put a link back to your domain or even a specific page or post on your domain. A lot of these sites, they don't even really think about marketers, so um, they're always giving you do follow links, and they're always a higher authority site. So a few good ones are Reverb Nation, 8 Tracks, and Bandcamp. And you can see I put there more in Neil's guide. Talk about Neil Patel. He's got a guide, a free guide on his site. That's, I don't know, the definitive guide to link building or advanced SEO or something like that. Just go to his quicksprout.com/blog, and down on the right side you'll see a bunch of different guides. He's got a ton of stuff in there for backlink stuff like this. Number 44. This is another thing that I recently came across to get backlinks, was feedback sites. Never really knew that they existed in the sense of like a public aspect, but there's a few of them down there that I found that you can go in there and submit your website and ask for like a critique or a review. And when you're putting your site, your domain in there, these are public pages, but they're giving you do follow backlinks, and these are typically higher authority sites. So that's just another way to get one more backlink. So that's pretty cool. This is another one. It's scoop.it. It's kind of a similar to Alltop, but it's more user created, kind of like a Pinterest, but for content. Like people are going out and finding good content and then kind of putting them all into a curated list. So they'll pick a specific topic uh, like like social media, I guess is um, a decent example. And they'll go out and find all the topics related to that, all the content related to that, scoop it, and then put it all into like one big list for people to find. But what's what's cool about this is that the people that are doing this and the lists that they create, the lists have like their own page on the site, and those pages, the lists they have high authority, typically a 2 or a 3. So what you could do is go in, find those lists that have the higher authority, and Scoop It actually has an option for you to, what they call the suggestion tool. you can go in and suggest those curators scoop your piece of content. And from what I've seen, other people are having good success at getting people to scoop their stuff just by suggesting it. So that's a pretty cool way to get more. You're going to get actually traffic from that as well as a backlink, because this site has some decent traffic. People are going there to read content because it's already curated for them. People have done the hard task for them of finding the good stuff and putting it all in one place. All right, this right here, I spent, I don't know, when I found out this site, I spent probably 4 hours messing around with this thing, trying to see what it couldn't do, because there's so much that it could do. It's awesome. It's free right now, at least. It's called dropmylink.com. And what it does, the site itself doesn't do a whole lot. All it really does is creates a Google search query. Um, but what it does is it uses Google to find backlinking opportunities for you. And it's a good way for you to see where you can get backlinks from like an edu or a .gov site, which is like huge right now. To be able to get backlinks from those types of sites. And it also allows you to find blogs with do follow comments. Uh, I'm sorry, do follow backlinks in their comment section, which anymore is hard to find. Um, you just have to really you have to think about what you're doing when you're using this thing, because you could really extort it for a lot more than what you should. So don't take advantage of it, because it really could end up biting you later. But it's a pretty cool tool right there. All right, so I've got just a few more things. We're getting closer to 50 here. After I don't know, I've got two or three more things before we finish up. These are kind of a random tips that just didn't really fall into any specific category. Um, One thing that Google is giving precedence to are businesses with a physical location. And we just recently moved what we called an office to an actual office just a month or two ago, and I did this for our business. But you have to create a Google Plus like local business page, and then verify the address, meaning that they want to make sure that you're actually at that address. They'll send a actual postcard to you with a 4-digit PIN number on it that you have to go back in and enter, saying that, hey, I just got your postcard in the mail at this location. Here's the PIN to it, to verify it. But what that does is it tells Google that you're a real business. And to them, it's hard to find real businesses. I mean, a lot of people try to portray themselves as a real business when really they're, sitting in their underwear at their kitchen table, you know, just spamming the crap out of all the social media sites. So verifying your Google Plus business page does a lot for you that a lot of people can't really prove. And in this, you could take this for what it's worth. For me, I honestly don't know what it does, but I know that having it improves your search on a local level, if anything, if not more than that, because to Google, you're a verified business. You are a business. You've got a phone number, an address. You verified that address, and they're going to give you precedence over somebody that hasn't. So it can't hurt anything to do it. It's free to do it. Takes about 15 minutes to set it up, and the postcard comes in the mail in like 4 or 5 days. Number 48, I called this strategic autoresponder traffic. Really, just because this is what we've done for ever since we signed up with AWeber, probably I don't know 11 or 12 years ago, is we build out a series of autoresponder messages for our new subscribers, and really just send them to all of our good pages online. So what happens in our business is people come in from all different kinds of search phrases, and some of them add themselves to our newsletter list. Some of them continue to browse other pages. So a lot of people will only see one page before they add themselves to our list, and they don't see all the other content we've written. We've got probably 400 posts on our blog and 150 articles on our other site, and we've got another blog that's got 40 or 50 posts on it. So there's a lot of opportunity to send people back to our site, to engage in the content, to leave comments, which keeps Google happy by showing that our content staying relevant. People are still actively adding content to it. They're seeing value in it. They're engaging in it. And in the end, it really improves the overall time on the site, time on the page, because they're going back to these pages and reading them for 10 or 15 minutes, going on to another page and reading another one for 10 or 15 minutes, which increases the overall time on the site. So it also gives people a chance to like the page on Facebook, share it with their friends, which all this happens on autopilot with tools like tools like Aweber and their autoresponders. So you can't really beat that. And we what we have right now is a series of 27 autoresponder messages that are sent 6 days apart. So we've got almost a half a year's worth of emails going out to new subscribers automatically, and it continues to build our content for us on a number of different levels. All right, this one here is something I recently did that I kept putting off because I don't know why I kept putting it off. I thought it was harder than it was, but you definitely want to get Google Webmaster Tools activated on your account, especially if you're using analytics, Google Analytics. It's really easy to do. You just log into your Google account, go to Webmaster Tools, add your domain, and you're done. If you have to verify it, based on your analytics code or something, but after that, you can go in and like if you used analytics before in Google Analytics, I don't know, a while back they kind of stopped displaying the keyword data of your like what people are typing in to find your site. Well, in Google Webmaster Tools, that's where you can find that data now. They've made that available inside of there, and it's not like Google AdWords where they just show like an estimate where it's a real round number, like 31,200 searches a month. I mean, this is exact data, like 3,232 impressions. You got 343 clicks. Your click-through rate is, this. Your average. It also shows your average ranking position for that keyword, and you can sort all of those keywords based on any of those topics. So you can see uh, what keyword people are typing in that you have the highest ranking for. You can see what keyword you are getting the most impressions for, meaning that Google is displaying you on the search page. What they're displaying you the most for. You can see which of your which of your search results are getting the most click-throughs, and it really is a good way to test test page and post titles because you can, which with the plugin I told you about with WordPress, it would be a lot easier than doing this, but it at least will allow you to track it on a search basis instead of just a click basis. So and the amount of information that they give you is just tremendous. So there's a lot of different uses for it. Um, like one thing that I noticed with our pages, we were ranking we were ranking high for stuff that I never even really considered us ranking for. And that's kind of the beauty of this thing is you end up ranking for things that you don't think you are. And what you can do then is like in our case, we thought we created this page trying to rank for one thing, but we actually are ranking higher for something else for that exact same page. So what we did was went back into that page, tweaked the content a little bit to add in more keyword relevance based to what people are searching for and how they're finding that page. So now we boosted that page even more. So it allows you to go back in and find older content and then update it based on what people are finding it for. Because a lot of times they find it for phrases and keywords that you don't think they will, just because there's nothing else out there on that specific topic, maybe, or what is out there is just garbage. So that's a really, really, really cool trick. And of course, you've got to have traffic to be able to use that trick. But once you've got traffic and you're not, like, we get tons and tons of traffic every day that we just aren't optimizing or aren't taking advantage of fully. So in my mind, it's up to me to be able to figure out how I can get the most out of that traffic. And this tool or this trick right here is one way to do that. All right, so I promised you at the beginning of this thing, I started out saying this, and this is number 50 because it is the number one thing that has allowed us to succeed in this game of SEO. And back when my dad started it in 1999, it wasn't even called SEO. It was merely called providing good content to people. And that's still our game online. Our game isn't backlinks because backlinking changes and it changes quickly. And when the algorithms change, you have a lot better chance of getting knocked down and having your business cut in half if your game is backlinking. But if your game is creating outstanding content, that will never change. People are always going to go online searching for information, and if you're providing like outstanding content, you're always going to win no matter what the search engine is, no matter what the topic is. People want information. Uh, one of the great late marketing legends, Gary Halbert, he's got like a 52 or 53 52 or 53 second video on YouTube. Um, and I'm not sure what it's called, but what he basically said was he has the Gary Halbert newsletter online, and if you go online and search for that or search for marketing or anything like that, it never comes up. And he did that specifically. But he's got the number one online newsletter in the world back, I don't know when he did this video, 2006, 2008 or something. And what he said was there's two things that people are starving for online: content and contact. And that will never change. It hasn't changed since 1999, since we've gotten into this, and it's the exact same now, 15 years later. So I strongly, strongly urge you to focus more on the content you're creating than the strategies that you're using to rank. Everything that I've given you here, these are real strategies. This is what we do on a daily basis. But the number one thing that we do first before we do all that other stuff is make sure that we're answering the question that people are already asking, and providing a good experience for them while they're getting the answers to that question. To us, that is the number one goal when we go out and create a piece of content, is to just make it different, make it better, and provide more value than anybody else. So I hope that you've gotten a lot out of this. And again, this is really what our business is right now, and we've really benefited a lot. I mean, every year we get more visitors, more traffic, just by doing the same thing. It really is our number one traffic strategy because we just continue to create content. So every year we're adding more and more content to our sites, which in turn adds more traffic to our site. So we're really building an asset. Each and every piece of content is its own asset. It's bringing in X number of visitors a month, and the goal is to increase that number on every single page every single month. And by 10 years from now, hopefully we'll have triple, quadruple the number of content pieces on there, and the same for traffic. So this really is a great strategy. It's worked for us for 15 years, and I know it'll work again for 15 more years. So best of luck to you, and I will see you again soon.